And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us. And one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it. And that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Hello, foil fanatics, and welcome back to another new episode of Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon Wright. Tonight we're going to be joined by my guest, Yvonne, and also Ransom. Both are authors, and they have written some books I thought you guys would find interesting, so I wanted to have them on here tonight and talk a little bit about that and some experiences they've had in their life. Before we bring them on, if you've ever had an encounter and you'd like to be on an episode of Tinfoil Tales, you can send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, and we will get you scheduled for a future episode. If you enjoy the podcast and you'd like to help out and help it continue to grow, you can share it around. Word of mouth is the best way of getting the podcast exposed to new listeners, so that's the first thing you can do to help. Funding the podcast has become a little bit of a challenge, so I'm starting to try and look into other avenues. I do have a donate button available for anyone that's interested in helping out. I'm not here begging for money. I don't want to do that, but if you would like to help, that's greatly appreciated. If you do, I'll give you a shout out for anyone that does that. I recently wrote a book called Shadows of Cedarville. It's been out for a while now. It's available on Amazon and other fine retailers. You can type in Shadows of Cedarville, and I'm sure you'll be able to locate it. You can find us on social media. Facebook is where I'm most active. We do have some of the other ones, but again, I don't really get on there too often. I probably should, and I've said this for a while, but it's just not something that I do. If you listen to the podcast on a streaming app like Apple or Spotify or anything like that, make sure to leave a review. 5-star review helps out with the rankings, so any type of review we get, it's definitely appreciated. You can always write in there too, what you like, what you don't like. I'm always looking for some feedback, so I appreciate that. We're going to go ahead now and bring on Yvonne first, talk with her, and then we'll bring Ransom on here after that. So hope you guys enjoy what we're about to talk about. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'd like to take this time to welcome my guest tonight, Yvonne. Thanks for coming out and talking with me.
Sure.
A little bit about yourself.
My pleasure. Yeah, I am a author of a book titled Anubis Chronicles, and don't ask me why I decided to write that book, but I did. But most of my life, I have studied spirituality, metaphysics, healing, meditation. So I'm not sure why I wrote that book. It's kind of a strange thing in itself.
Interesting that you wrote a book about something like that, because I actually just wrote something called Shadows of Cedarville, and it also deals with like this dogman werewolf phenomena. I even mentioned Anubis in the book. So come to find out when you're wanting to come on here and talk about stuff, I was like, well, that's interesting.
You do realize, what's interesting, you realize that Anubis isn't really a dog. He is a wolf. And that's what intrigued me, was when I was doing a little bit of research on something else, something that caught my eye, and I clicked on it, and it was a whole thing about Anubis, and I found out that he's not a dog. He is an ancient Egyptian wolf, but everybody thinks he's a jackal, but he's not. He's a wolf. So in my book, he's a werewolf, but the ultimate werewolf, because he's no normal werewolf can go against him. It's a strange book, my book, because I'm telling you, I was in the middle of writing a meditation book, and I don't know, during the meditation, it just came to me that I should stop what I was doing and write a fantasy book. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it's just stressful, because the meditation book was, was putting a lot of personal stuff in there, and it was kind of it was kind of hard. And I thought, well, maybe I just need a break. Let me write something fun. Well, this book literally wrote itself. It's 342 pages, and I really don't remember writing it. I know that sounds really weird, and I'm not one of those people who say, oh, I believe in channeling or anything like that. I'm not. But when I went to edit it and send it in, and I'm like, really? I wrote that? It's really weird, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. Has there been any reasons as to why you could think you would come up with something like that out of nowhere?
Well, like I said, when I decided to write a fantasy book, I just thought I was going to write a run-of-the-mill werewolf book, because a lot of people like those. There's a whole bunch of people who that genre is their thing, just werewolf books. So that's what I was going to write, something simple, something easy. I didn't necessarily want it to have a meaning. But then when I started to write, I came across that whole situation with Anubis. And then in further investigation, I found out that there is a city down by Aswan in Luxor, the Valley of the Kings. There's a small city, and it's called Lycopolis, and it literally translates to Valley of the Wolves. And so it just got my imagination going, and I just created this godlike monster. Well, he's not really a monster, because what he does in my book, it's about a council who protects humans against supernaturals, but it's a secret council, so nobody knows about him. And it just went from there. And it's quite astonishing, because by the end of the book, it's actually a book about energy, if you can believe that. It's almost like some entity out there wanted me to write this stuff. I don't know if you'll ever read it but it's really something else. And everybody that's read it, because I had like 5 beta readers read it before I put it out there, because I thought, what if this is so ridiculous that nobody will, connect to it? And every single one of those 5 people were like, oh my God, Yvonne, where did you come up with this stuff? I said, I don't know. And they're going like, really, how could you not know? I said, I really don't know.
Yeah, that is strange, especially when it's something that you're not really familiar about.
Yeah, and it's, when you do research on how to write a book, they want you to do all this stuff, like make a rough draft, write about what you're going to talk about. I didn't do any of that. Literally, I sat down and wrote it. That's it. I didn't do like, well, what should I say here? There was never any of that. And so I have a good friend. She goes, did you put my name in your book? And I said, no. And she says, oh, don't be like that. Put my name in your book. I said, no, because the original name was going to be my granddaughter's middle name of the heroine of the story. But as I was writing it, a bad thing happened to her. And I said, oh, shoot, I'm not going to put my granddaughter's name on this. I had to go back and take off her name on everything. So when my friend Rachel said, well, I want you to put my name in, and I told her, I already decided I'm not putting anybody's name that I know, because I don't know what's going to happen. She goes, well, that's just ridiculous. How could you not know? I said, I don't know. So she bothered me to put her name. When another character came up, I said, okay, I'll just shut Rachel up and put her name. And it's something really bad happens to that character. And she said, you did that on purpose. I said, no, I told you I don't want to put people's names that I know, because I honestly, truly do not know what's going to happen. And nobody believes me. Even my sister read. Huh?
I was going to ask, how many books did you write before this one?
Well, I have a completed manuscript on meditation, but I haven't published that yet, because this has really side-trailed me to doing, I just published it, so I'm promoting it. And so I'm actually writing a companion novel to one of my favorite characters in the main book, the Anubis Chronicles. That's a smaller book, and that should be out by the beginning of next year. And I also have another project, because I write plays. So I'm writing an anthology of 10-minute plays. So that has to come out by the end of this year. So, I mean, I do write, but I just, this is the only one that's actually published first.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I am. I just randomly decided to start writing mine, and I wrote it over a weekend and just put it out there. So it's strange how that happens.
It is. It's like when, you know, I really truly believe that there are, I don't know, I don't want to say entities because people have a bad idea about that, but there are forces that give us ideas and things that are needed to be out in the world. And if we don't do it right then and there, then somebody else will. The idea will go to someone else and you'll see it. And that is very, very true, because my meditation book that I've been writing on, I saw somebody recently put out almost the exact same things that were in my meditation book. And I thought, oh my God, I lagged. Somebody else wrote what I was writing. And I don't even know these people. So I really do believe that. And in my Anubis Chronicle book, I really believe that it's peppered with truths that, I don't know, it's very strange. Very strange.
When you were doing your research, was there anything that stood out to you that you didn't understand that just kind of flew from into what your research was into your story?
The Anubis Chronicles, the only thing was about Anubis being actually a wolf. You know, and he's the god of the dead, but he actually wasn't the god of the dead, but he was the most just god. So he was the one who measured the hearts with the feather to see who would go to the afterlife and who would not. But I knew that story, but I just really got fascinated with him because he was actually a wolf, and don't ask me why. I just got fascinated with him.
You had any other sort of
So,
weird paranormal experiences or anything like that you can think of that might have helped influence that?
I'm very open because when I was like 9 years old, I experienced my first paranormal event. We went to Texas because we live here in California, and my great grandmother passed away, and there were rumors. Well, you know, these are just rumors. There were rumors that she was a witch, but my family ancestry is Indian and Mexican and Spanish. But my great grandma, was supposedly very known to be a witch. I didn't really understand it so much when I was little, but what I did know was that everybody was afraid. I was listening to people talk, and I asked my mom, why is everybody crying and being so afraid? You know, because she was older when she died. And she said, because we're afraid she's not going to go to heaven because of the things that she did. And at 9, you really can't comprehend. And I said, well, what did she do? She goes, oh, just stuff. So anyways, that night when they did like a really long rosary for her, like, I don't know, 12 days, which usually it's not that long. And on one of the days we were there, my sister and I, and she's 11 months older than me, excuse me. So she was 10, I was 9. And they made us go to bed. But before that, they were all looking for this little wallet that they said that she was very adamant about making sure my mother got it before she passed away. So they put me and my sister to bed in that house, in the bed that she died in. And me and my sister, we were in Texas. We hated Texas because it was so hot. And we were laying in bed talking. And then all of a sudden, I felt a presence. And I looked up and I said, Debbie, I said, do you see anything? She goes, oh my God. She goes, isn't that Grandma Goncha? I said, yeah. I go, are we hallucinating? Are we making that up? She goes, well, what does she have on? And I said, a dress with blue checkers and white checkers. And Debbie goes, with an apron? I said, yes. She goes, oh my God, she's standing right there. She was standing at the foot of the bed looking at us. And I said, don't worry, she's not going to hurt us. I know she's not going to hurt us. And Debbie goes, what does she want? I said, I don't know. I said, let's just close our eyes. And when we open them, she'll be gone. So we closed our eyes and we fell asleep, and we woke up the next morning, and the little wallet that they were looking for was at the foot of the bed. So after that, and I was only 9, I knew that there was other things in this world that people cannot explain. So that was my first encounter with a paranormal event at 9.
Was there anything else from
And
that?
No, just that they found the little purse, and everybody was, how did we miss it? Everybody was searching the floors and nobody found it. We tried to tell my mom, but my mom just shushed us off. She didn't want us to upset her mother, because it was her grandma that passed away. So no, but me and my sister, to this day, we both remember it very clearly. We do, and that's just one. There's been many events in my life, and that's why I believe in outwardly entities, because there's been times when I think that my life has actually been saved by a whisper I hear. For those out there listening, I'm not schizophrenic or anything like that, but I have heard whispers, and that have helped me get through something terrible. So to me, that's I believe in other things that we cannot see.
Have you ever had any more encounters like with paranormal?
Like ghosts and stuff. One time when I was driving home from I think a party, I was young, in my 20s, and I was passing through a graveyard, and it was a big graveyard on both sides of the street, and I actually saw a see-through person walking right across my car, in front of my car. Turned around, looked at me, just kept walking. So that was that. Let me think. Oh, okay. So I've heard my mother call my name, and I don't know if it's a dream or it's not a dream, because I'll wake up and I'll see her for a second, and then she's gone. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. But the green guy and my grandmother, definitely those were paranormal entities, ghosts, or whatever. I believe.
I think with paranormal and everything, and this is just my opinion, I don't know really anything about it. Sometimes I believe that if there are spirits or whatever, I think that somehow they interact with us and we don't necessarily understand it, but I don't know if they're trying to communicate or influence, or it's just the energy from them that bring themselves around to us.
Well, like I said earlier about the book becoming a book about energy, I think that it's, and again, we can all think different things. Who knows what's correct? I think that everything is energy in this world, in this universe. And when people pass over, maybe their body passes over, maybe their soul passes over, but their energy, you cannot destroy energy. So if a soul or a spirit is energy, it's still out there somewhere. Maybe it manifests itself to you so that you know who it is. Because if you hear a voice and you don't see a body, you're not going to know who it is. Or unless you're in tuned enough to feel who it is through the energy itself. But I think everything is energy. And I think that it's not what we think. There's an American Indian word for God, and the translation of that is the great mystery that no human can understand. And I think that's exactly what it is. I think these entities that speak to us or involve in our life to help us, that we don't understand why, but they're probably our ancestors. They're probably our people who loved you, and forgive me for saying this, in another life, or however you want to put it. I do believe that. I do.
Yeah, I haven't really had too many paranormal instances that I can think of. I've had a few here and there, but it's not really anything that I can relate to as being someone that I know or anything about it. There's just been some very weird stuff that's happened over the years.
Have you ever had like what they scientifically call night terrors, where you can't move and you can't talk and you feel an entity around you? Have you ever had one of those happen to you?
Actually, I do have an episode about it. It's the sleep paralysis and Hat Man episode. I mentioned before when I lived at home with my parents.
Yeah.
It was like 20 something years ago, and I had something basically grabbed me by the throat, it felt like, and I couldn't move, and I was paralyzed. When I opened my eyes, I saw this guy with a hat on, and then eventually it disappeared, and I was able to move, but my throat still hurt.
But what did you do to make him move?
I just was like trying to move, and eventually it just vanished, and then I was able to break free from it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't believe that those are sleep paralysis. I don't believe that. I mean, doctors say whatever they want to say when they don't have nothing to say. So they make up things. I did have that happen to me, but it wasn't a person with a hat. I didn't know what it was. It started out where all of a sudden I felt like a real heavy energy, like a dark energy. And then I looked around, and then I thought, well, let me get up and see. I couldn't get off the bed. And then I was having trouble breathing. And all of a sudden I felt someone sit on the bed, like they were pressing my legs down. And I tried to call for someone else in the house. My sister was there, and I couldn't even speak. I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak. And I could see the indentation on the bed. And I just started praying. I started praying and saying, "Be God, whoever you are, be God. Leave me be in the name of God, in the name of, all that's right and holy, whatever." I just started talking, and eventually it went away. But it was very terrifying. And I don't really believe in evil spirits, mind you. I don't. But I mean, I'm sure there are, but I personally think that if you have a certain type of energy that you're not going to encounter that. That was when I was young in my 20s, and I was like different than I am now, because I don't find myself fearful like that, but that would definitely, and I'm sure you can say the same thing. That didn't feel like no sleep paralysis. I don't know.
I've had instances here and there where I feel like I'm awake, but I can't move. But I don't know if it's paranormal or anything like that. To me, it's just, I feel like I'm still dreaming, and in my dream, I can't really move. And then I wake up and I'm able to move.
Yeah, but what's to say that your dream's not reality on another realm? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. What's to say that it isn't?
Yeah, I don't really have a explanation to it.
I believe in all things are normal, because I think that there's things that we cannot see, and there's places we cannot see. When I was very, very little, young, I swear, and I don't know where I got this from, because, my parents, we didn't go a lot of places or watch a lot of TV. I was young. I really believed that I had fell into this world and I belonged somewhere else. I believe that. I used to look for portals all over the house to go back to my realm. And how does a 6, 7-year-old even know what a realm is, or a portal, for that matter? But yeah, I've had some strange instances in my life. I have. I've had those whispers, without getting into it too much, but I had a situation where someone was, trying to probably kill me. And right before I passed out, because he was choking my neck, I heard a voice. I say it's an angel. I don't know. I heard a voice whisper in my ear, "Tell him," and she told me what to say, which I don't really want to say on air. "Tell him that." And I said it, and he immediately stopped choking me. And I heard that voice as clear as day. So, I don't know.
I've never heard voices or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I don't usually, but I heard that voice. I heard that voice one time, and another voice, another weird time. I was driving on the freeway, and it was that kind of traffic that there's a lot of cars, but they're going very fast. And I don't know, it said move to the right. And I looked at the right side, and there were so many cars, I thought, I can't get to the right. And then all of a sudden it cleared up, and I coasted to the right, and my car completely stopped and the engine blew up. If that had happened while I was driving on the far left, I would have been in trouble. So those 2 times I heard voices, and the third time I heard a voice was, and I still to this day don't know what it means. I was driving with a friend, and all of a sudden I heard somebody whisper in my ear, Andromedas. And I didn't even know what that meant. I still don't know what that meant.
Yeah, I have no idea what that would mean.
I don't know. I don't know either. But yeah, I believe in paranormal. Absolutely, I believe in paranormal. I think there's a grain of truth to many things that people or the powers that be don't want us to know for whatever reason. But then again, I've read so many books on things that maybe I just have a wild imagination. I don't know.
I think there's something out there, and I can't say one way or the other what it is because, again, I don't know either. But I believe that there is definitely some sort of energies or other world that bleeds into ours, and I think it explains a lot of the questions that we have. But again, proving that is harder.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's something that I think, but it's hard to prove.
Yeah, proving it is very hard.
No.
Yeah. Even when you get these professional Ghostbusters and all that, they rarely find anything that's concrete. Unless you see it yourself, like it's etched in my mind forever. Me and my sister seeing our great grandmother, because how could we possibly see the same thing? I mean, I don't see how that could be. It's not like we talked to each other and said, let's say this. No, we saw it. So I do believe that is possible.
Yeah. I guess with me doing this podcast and everything, it's kind of opened me up to be more acceptable to a lot of the strange things out there, because I've always been somewhat of a skeptic. But seeing things, experience things, and listen to what other people experience kind of makes me question things a lot more than what I used to.
But what makes you so fascinated? Are you like me? I always want to know the why of things. I do. I want to know why.
I'm kind of that way.
Why and how?
Basically, for me, I wanted to just interview people that have had experiences or something like that, because I had my own experiences years ago and never felt like I could talk about it. And I wanted to give a platform for people to come on and share their experiences and not have to worry about it like a lot of people do, because there's always that stigma. If you see some kind of creature, if you see a ghost, if you see an alien or whatever, you always are looked down upon, I feel like, from most people in society, because it's such a taboo subject. But with me, I just wanted to give someone an opportunity to talk without having to be worried about it.
Yeah, people think you're crazy. It's just like, it's like, in our culture, people believe a lot in witchcraft. They believe that a witch or bruja can put, brujeria on you, a hex on you. And, so that always fascinated me, especially learning that everybody believed that my great-grandmother was a very powerful witch. There's like all kinds of instances, things they said she did. I mean, I was only 9 and I have no way of confirming if she did those things or not, and nobody wanted to like talk about it. I would just hear things, through the family, through the years, but you're talking about big things, like burning down a building and, without her actually being there, things like that. So I have studied a lot about witchcraft and the conclusion that I've come to. And again, I'm telling you, I'm a big person on energy. What it is, it's somebody who can manipulate energy, because everything is energy. What do you think the churches do? What do you think the Catholic Church does? It focuses energy through ritual. All things are through ritual, are more focused and more powerful. So when people go every Sunday and they partake in the Catholic Church ritual, they are focusing and funneling energy, which equals magic. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if somebody believes that they can do something and they do rituals to enhance that something and focus their energy on it, yeah, maybe they can do a little hit thing here and there. And I'm sure that like I said, there's a truth to all myths and stories. I'm sure that the witches of old, they knew how to manipulate energy. And I'm sure there's people who know how to manipulate energy now. But you have to have clear focus. You have to be able to clear your mind and have a laser clear focus. How many of us can actually do that? Not many that I know. But so I don't think witchcraft is like and spells and all that are like getting power from evil and all that. I think it's people who know how to focus their energy. I think it's really that simple. But that's just my opinion, my humble opinion.
I've actually wanted to interview someone that's a practicing, I don't know if they want to call themselves Wiccans or whatever they want to call themselves these days, but I know there's people out there that practice witchcraft, and I've kind of been interested in figuring out what it is they actually do and how it actually works.
Well, like I said, it's ritual. And again, that has a negative connotation when I say ritual. They're going to perform a ritual. A ritual is just focusing energy. Do you do things in a ritual to help focus that energy? Yes. But mostly, I would say they're harmless. You know, I'm sure there are those who use really negative energy to do things. But again, that's a choice that people make. And just like anything else in the universe, whatever you put out will come back to you. So if you have a person that thinks that they can do negative ritual energy focusing, it has to come back to them, because that's the law of the universe. What you put out, you will get back. It is. It's the law of the universe. It's natural law of the universe. So, I mean, I don't know. I really believe that.
You could be right. And again, like I said, who are we to say at this point? And there's really no experts in the field. It's all kind of just speculation from anybody. But I do agree that I think there's a lot of energies out there, and I think that's what shapes the world that we live in.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, you know, my biggest passion really is I would like everybody to meditate, because I think when you meditate and you fall into the silence, there is where you focus your own energy. And that's when I say you touch God in the universe, is when you can silence your mind to a point of nothingness. And if I could do anything in the world, I would say I would want to help everybody learn to meditate. So when I tell you that I wrote this other book, it's really strange, because my whole focus for 5 years was writing a book on meditation, not a supernatural fantasy thriller. And why I started to write that, I swear I'll never know. I mean, I'm too invested now to just say, oh, I'm not going to do it anymore. But, you know, my passion is spirituality and meditation.
Has your other book been released now, the Anubis book?
The one that was released, yes, is the Anubis Chronicles. And it's the council part, book 1. And that explains the beginning of that series. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there about energy. And I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in there that people probably won't like. But okay, I don't know.
Where can people interested in checking out your book, where can they find it at?
Well, they can find it on Amazon, or they can go to my website and find it. And they can actually read the first, I think it's 30 pages for free if they want to see if they like it. But it's a supernatural fantasy thriller. And it has, I'm going to give a little hint, it has reincarnation in it, the energies of people and why people connect to other people, which to me I've always been fascinated with. Why does one person fall in love with another person? I think it's energy. I do. I don't think it's love. I don't think it's behavior. I don't think it's anything. I think that when you meet somebody that your energy meshes with, that's it. But I'll say no more about that.
No. Well, I was kind of thinking if there was anything else you wanted to talk about, we could. If not, we could probably kind of wrap this one up. I've got a lot of things that I've been trying to catch up on, so I don't want to try and take too much of your time if you've got other things you need to be doing as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. I really wish you a lot of luck.
No, I definitely appreciate that. Again, anyone listening, if you want to check out Yvonne's book, it's called The Anubis Chronicles, I believe. Is that
the
correct?
Anubis Chronicles.
Yep.
and the Council. It's book 1.
Yeah,
It's called Anubis Chronicles. Yeah, the Council book 1. You can get it on Amazon or my website, which is Yvonne Garcia Zaher, ZAHER.com.
awesome. Well, Yvonne, again, I appreciate you coming on and talking with me tonight. It's been a pleasure, and I'll definitely be checking into your book. Sounds very fascinating to me.
Okay, great. Thank you. It has a lot of werewolves in it.
That's right up my alley.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Well, thank you very much. You too. Bye-bye.
I'd like to take this time to welcome my guest tonight, Ransom. Thanks for coming on here and talking with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Where are you from?
I am from East Tennessee, Oak Ridge. It's a little bit outside Knoxville.
Nice. You're in the area of, it's not CERN down there, but it's something else like that. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
It's one of those other, is it CERN? You know what I'm referring to? It's another one of those.
Sure what.
It's one of those like like where they try to, I say they try to create portals, but they're,
Oh, you're talking about with Y12.
let me,
Yeah, Y12, the lab where they do a whole lot of stuff. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head, but there's a place down there that like a particle accelerator or something. I think they mess around with or something.
Yeah, that's at Y12. That's actually in the town I live in. It's the sister city was with Oppenheimer and all that, out in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So they still do a ton of different stuff there. But, I'm not even sure what all they do there, to be honest.
I've heard lots of stories. I can't say for sure they're true because I've never witnessed it, but there are a lot of theories out there what really goes on at that place.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, that's town I live right there. Yeah, Oak Ridge.
I actually think it's the Oak Ridge testing range or something like that is what I've heard it referred to as.
Okay. Yeah, it's yes, sir. Yeah, the CERN.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyways, got off track. That's when you said Oak Ridge or whatever. I think that's why it clicked in my head. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's a place down there that supposedly makes portals and brings in interdimensional beings and all sorts of craziness.
Yeah, the Y12 plant. Yeah.
If you know anyone that's ever worked there, you can send them my way. I'd love to talk to them a little bit.
I actually know a ton of people that have worked there and currently work there, but it's one of those things that government facility, they don't really talk about what exactly they do.
Makes it even more suspicious.
Yeah, whether it's weird stuff they're doing or not, either way, they don't really talk about, what they do. So
I talked to someone years ago, not for a podcast or anything, but they swore that they worked at Area 51 installing doors, and they were like bomb quality, like bomb shelter, really thick quality doors. I was like, and they were supposedly contracted out. I was like, that's interesting. I was like, what all did you see? He's like, we weren't allowed to see anything. He's like, had armed guards around us the whole time. He's like, and then when they let us come in, we had to keep our heads down. They wouldn't let us see where we were going. I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if that was true or complete bullshit, but you never know.
Yeah. You never know.
Well, what is it that you do?
So I'm an author. I have 2 books. Then my job that, like my 9 to 5, I guess you could say, I'm a tennis coach. So I teach tennis for a living.
Never played tennis.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good sport. It's one of those sports, you can play for your entire life as long as, your body able. So like football, you'd have to give up at some point, stuff like that. But tennis, you can always play. So it's a good sport.
Yeah, the closest thing to tennis is not even close would just be the concept of badminton. That's about the extent of what I've played as far as hitting things over a net.
Yeah. Now badminton's fun too.
I always felt like that's the old person version of tennis.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. You see some of those YouTube videos and stuff of like professional badminton players, that those guys move. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot faster than, what recreational is.
Yeah. So you said you're an author. What type of books do you write?
So mostly horror, I guess you'd say. I have 2 books out. After Midnight, 12 Terrifying Stories, which most of those are like kind of like dealing with cryptids, stuff like that. Then my other book is Frogman at the Foothills, which is actually about like a frog type cryptid that lives in the Smokies.
I know there was the actual Frogman of, I don't know. For me being a guy that has a podcast and talks about this stuff, I should know a little bit more of my lore, but I tend to forget things quite often. I just blame that on my old age. But I know there was sighting. I think it's a Loveland frog.
I say the Loveland frog. Yeah, in Ohio, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Did that have any kind of influence to your story, or?
Not really. I think that is an interesting cryptid story. More, I guess, influence mine was kind of like Creature of the Black Lagoon, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the creepiest original monsters, so I kind of wanted to do like a homage to, I guess you'd say.
I will go on record and say that was my favorite Universal monster movie back in the day, and it still is.
Yeah, that costume still holds up to today. Like, it was so well done.
Yeah, for 53 or 57, something like that.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. And even today, like I said, it still holds up.
Oh yeah, hand painted, handmade. Like it's crazy, honestly.
Yeah, I had that movie as a kid, and it's always been one of my favorites. I've always grew up a monster fan. I was a huge Godzilla fan. I still am. And
Okay.
That's monsters and everything else has always been something I've loved, like the lore to the monster movies and everything else. And probably why I'm fascinated by the whole stories of cryptids or whatever, because growing up as a kid, I wanted to believe in monsters and never did. And now here I am almost 40. I was like, maybe they are real.
Yeah. I was kind of, same thing, that kid that, I don't know, always liked Bigfoot and stuff like that. So, and then that's why probably most of my stories kind of deal around that type of stuff.
But you've never seen anything?
I've never seen Bigfoot. Honestly, I don't know if I want to tell you the truth. That's one of those things I think would be terrifying if you saw in person, but I do think there's something out there in regards to like Bigfoot. There's just too many sightings worldwide for them all to be fake.
Now, I agree to that, but there's other things about Bigfoot that make you question, like, if they're really out there, how come we've still yet to ever get any proof of that? Like, yeah, you might see some footprints, you might see some blurry pictures, or you hear all the stories. Same thing with, like, even with my experience, like with Dogman or whatever it was.
Yeah, I agree.
I know what I saw, but there's never been any real tangible proof. And if there has been, for some reason, it's never been released. And it makes you wonder why that is.
Yeah, that's one thing I agree with. There's no, skeletal remains or anything like that. There's people that have said that they have like Bigfoot, carcass body, and then it's been debunked. So it does make you think. But my thing is, there's been so many sightings worldwide. Like, some probably are bears, some are probably like drunk people you can't chalk, but there's been some pretty reputable people that have seen something. So how do you just kind of like dismiss that?
Yeah. That's where I've always been to when it comes to trying to believe or not believe. I believe people see something. Is it what they're thinking it is? I have no idea. I can't discredit anyone for saying they saw something just because I've seen something too, and I try to discredit my own self.
Yeah.
Because it's not that I don't want to believe, but it's like it doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't see how it could be. But that's just the skeptic in me. I'm natural skeptic, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, cryptids have always kind of fascinated me, and majority I don't believe in. Like, I don't think there's a Loch Ness monster, stuff like that. But like I said, Bigfoot is one that, I think there is something out there.
I would be plausible to something in the water just because there's so much water that we never really explored in the oceans. The loch, I
Mhm.
mean, that's a little different. I don't expect a dinosaur to live in the loch.
Exactly, yeah.
Now the Maquilamabambe or whatever, I could see something living in the jungles just because it's so untapped, and I don't know how unchanged it's been, but just think of
Mhm.
evolution. Is it a sauropod dinosaur? I have no idea, or whatever. Like a long-necked dinosaur, I don't know, but I mean, it could be something different that we don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
that's true.
that always reminds me, because that's the one topic I'd love to talk about, but it's not like I could ever interview anyone that's ever seen one of those, because I don't expect too many people to be in the jungles of the Congo.
Yeah, yeah. Or one that has access to come on a podcast.
Yeah. Or even live to tell the tale about it. I've always wondered if it's not like I'd say it would be like a hippo, but it doesn't explain the long neck.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like you're saying, like in the waters and stuff too. That's something that wouldn't surprise me either, just because of how much of like oceans and stuff hasn't been explored.
Mm-hmm. I know with these Meg movies and stuff out now, everyone's like, oh, there could be a Meg still out there. I was like, the amount of food that thing would have to eat. I
Yeah.
can't see a 65-foot shark swimming around and not being noticed. But
Though I said that probably would have been noticed at some point, or a body washed ashore or something.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things I don't necessarily think there is something in the ocean, but it wouldn't surprise me either.
I'm more of a believer in and maybe it's just because I'm a giant cephalopod fan. Most of my tattoos are octopus related, but I could see like a giant squid. Obviously, there are giants, but like something a lot bigger than what we know about further in the deeps and the depths, because they don't have bones in their bodies, so they could evolve differently than some of the others with the pressures and stuff. So I could see something like that being out there, but again, if it's so far down, we'd never know.
Yeah, Kraken type monster.
Something like that, possibly. I don't know. I always hold out hope there's a real Godzilla.
See, I there's all those things I don't think there's a Godzilla. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if it's just that was announced at some point.
Sometimes I wish it was true, just so I'd be like, long live the king.
Yeah.
But no, so what really, you said you were fascinated with Bigfoot and everything, so what made you write these books? Like, what drew you to just writing up the stories?
I've always been into like reading and stuff. I grew, I'm close to your age, a few years younger, so Goosebumps and stuff was really big. So I liked all the Goosebumps stories. I liked Twilight Zone, stuff like that. So I think that's why I kind of liked stuff like that, and just my love of reading and all that. I decided to kind of write as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not an avid reader.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle to find things that would interest me, just because I don't feel like I have enough time. I do so much other things, and I read mostly on my phone or on my computer or something like that. So that's where that's most of my time. But I've been trying to lately to listen to audio books, just because I drive a lot.
Yeah,
I have those playing.
I don't have mine on audio, but I think you would enjoy them if you decide to pick up a copy, kind of in your interest. It sounds like.
I'll definitely check them out. Is there a ebook Kindle version of them?
There is, yeah. There's then if you're part of like Kindle Select, where you get them free or whatever, that's Frogman at the Foothills has one of those. After midnight, it's $3.99 to download for Kindle.
Okay, no, that's fine. How much are the paperback versions?
So paperback, I want to say After Midnight's $13 and some change. Frogman is $7.99, I believe.
That's how much I put my book at, is $7.99.
Yeah.
Mine's really short. It's only like 152 pages.
Okay, yeah. Neither one of these are very big. After Midnight's like 163, 165, something like that. Frogman's right around 100.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what to price it at, so I just priced it. I was like, yeah, $7.99 sounds decent.
Yeah. I tried. So After Midnight was through a publisher, and then before it was released, they were bought out and dropped mine. So I self-published that one. So I set the price on After Midnight. Frogman with the Foothills is with another publisher, so they set the price on that one. But I think they just try and go with what, other books around that size and stuff are selling for.
Yeah. That's all. I didn't look for a publisher or anything like that. I just self-released it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm straight up DIY. Like I've been in bands for years and stuff, and we recorded all of our own music. That's just how I am. That's kind of why I do the podcast now too, because I had all this stuff for music purposes and haven't done band stuff. So I was like, well, I'm going to start a podcast because I have this stuff here, and I've always wanted to do a podcast about conspiracy stuff, and ended up turning into what it is now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah. And, with self-publishing and stuff, there's pros and cons. Like, you get more of the royalties, you make more self-publishing, but you also got to do like the cover and the editing, all that, where publisher, you don't have to. So it just kind of depends on how much you can do, I think.
I did everything on mine, and with technology today, it doesn't make it hard to do things. I used an AI art generator, and I'm pretty decent with Photoshop, so I kind of made what I wanted to be on there in the first place, and then I just kind of let AI generate it to make it all look decent.
Yeah.
And then as far as editing goes, people can say I cheated or whatever, but like I said, I'm not a writer, so I wrote everything on notes on my phone. I emailed it to myself. I took it over there. I put it in Word. I did words autocorrect and suggestions and whatever, and then I put it through Grammarly, and then I put it through a chat bot to make it all formatted in the correct format. And then I just went from there. I was like, I'm not an author, I'm not an editor, I'm not a writer. I had a story in my head and how I went about it.
Yeah.
But
you said yours is about Dogman.
Yeah, it's called Shadows of Cedarville. It's basically the first chapter's the encounter that I had myself, and obviously it's fictionalized, this book, so it's not my name, but it's fairly similar to me, and the encounter is pretty much the same. And then the second chapter's the guy starts a podcast and he's interviewing all these other people, and then it just kind of goes off from there. Like, it was influenced from my real story, like what really happened to me and why I do a podcast. But from there, I just turned into like this fictional horror, mystery, thriller type thing.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. It sounds interesting.
I used a lot of Dogman lore just because I've been digging into this stuff now for years. And then been doing the podcast for over a year and interviewing other people and listening to other podcasts and stuff. It's like, I know a lot of different background to these creatures or these supposed creatures, and that's what I just kind of base it off in my story.
Yeah.
But now I'll definitely check out the books. If you have links or whatever, you can always send those to me, and I'll add them into the show notes.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I appreciate that. Easy way too, you can just go on Amazon and search my name, Ransom D. Costlet. It'll pull both of them right up too. Yeah.
I assume anyone out there listening would appreciate that as well, just because it is right up the familiarity of what we'll talk about and listen to on here. So, but yeah, I know the podcast here, the last few guests I've had, they've been talking about their books and everything else. I've gotten a lot of hits lately from people writing books, and I don't know if it's because I also wrote a book, so everyone thinks that that's what a podcast was, but I was like, no, I was like, for personal experiences and stuff like that, I don't care to come on here and talk about the books if it falls in line with the podcast.
Yeah, that's why, like I was saying, I thought your podcast would work and interest, your listeners and stuff, just because a lot of the stories have to do with like cryptids or, something paranormal, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like After Midnight, I have like an alien story in there. I have a Bigfoot story in there, paranormal stories. I mean, there's a kind of whole bunch of different stuff in that one.
Yeah. Now, to keep true to the content of the podcast, I know we talked a little bit about it, but do you want to talk about the actual paranormal stuff that you have experienced?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm experiencing a whole lot. Like, I don't know if I want to see, Bigfoot or aliens or anything like that. I think that'd be kind of terrifying. In college, I lived in kind of an older house with one of my roommates, and I played college tennis, so a bunch of my teammates and stuff would be over there all the time. So they also heard this stuff too. So it's not like just me being crazy or anything. But my house at nighttime, we'd hear like running up and down the hallways, like children running. And then we'd also hear laughter and stuff like that. And my dog heard it too. My dog, one time in my room, was just barking crazy because he heard it too. And I was like, we're not going out there. So.
Yeah. When you hear noises and everything, it's always strange because you don't know if it's someone out there or if it's, then you check and there isn't anyone out there. You're like, okay, well, that's even creepier.
Exactly, yeah. And it sounded, sounded like running down halls, like a child playing or something, which makes it kind of creepy too.
I don't know. Again, I don't want to always refer back to my own self, but from my own perspectives, like I struggle with paranormal stuff just because I don't know if it's residual hauntings or if it's smart, intelligent spirits or what it could possibly be. I know some people say demonic or whatever. I don't always like to beat that horse either, but it is very strange. And my own hypothesis of the whole situation could be, what if what we're experiencing that we consider paranormal is actually an alternate reality bleeding into ours? So the people that we're seeing as ghosts are actually just other versions of people, just on a different universal plane, I guess. I don't know how, like string theory, if that was true, like there's other realities, other dimensions, other whatever that like is split from where we are. So maybe what we're interacting with is just something from another side, a different reality.
Yeah. Infinite realities. So who knows?
At the end of the day, I don't think anyone will ever know. And then maybe down there in where you live, maybe they'll open that doorway up and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I know after Stranger Things and stuff, that's when it really started picking up wind that's what White Whale and all that was doing. And they even went out to say they're not messing with that stuff. And you're like, well, someone who's doing that would say that, so it's kind of funny.
There's another podcast that I credit to my podcast as well. It's The Confessionals, and he actually lived down around your area too now, I believe. But his podcast, it was one of the ones that I started listening to right when I was trying to do research for mine. And I never realized when I started this podcast that there were so many other podcasts like this, because I'm not a podcast listener. Like I said, I've always been a band person, so I always listen to music. I never listened to podcasts. And it wasn't up until like the last year or so that I really started looking into other podcasts, just because I was like, well, if I'm going to start a podcast, I better look into what other podcasts are doing. Then I come across a couple of their formats and everything. I was like, well, that's what I wanted to do. I guess there's already people doing that.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I was pretty dumb and naive to think that a platform like this didn't really exist, just because I always thought it was very taboo, because most people don't want to talk about experiencing weird things because most people think they're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I actually went on another podcast about a year ago, and the guy had one similar to yours. He had a book out too, and his was kind of like paranormal stuff and all that. So it was pretty cool.
I was hesitant about the book just because my podcast, I'm not monetized, and I probably could be if I wanted to be, but that's not the point of my podcast. I spend money to make this podcast. Like, it's more of a hobby for me. So I don't like when people blatantly try to attack me as being a leech, just trying to milk money off other people's stories. Like, I don't even get money. I actually pay out of my own pocket to do this.
Yeah, you enjoy doing it.
So to call me a leech or saying I'm trying to siphon money off someone else's like stories or whatever, like, that's not even what I do. Like, you don't really have a clue. I'm not monetized, mainly because I don't want to be. And the content that I put out is questionable sometimes for ads. I don't want to be having to limit what I can say or what things are done just because it might offend somebody's sponsorship or advertising. So to me, it's not worth it. And that was never the intent of the podcast.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But yeah, I've dealt with that. I've been dealing with people lately getting mad at my name for Tinfoil Tells that I'm insulting people. I was like, how am I insulting anybody? Like, literally,
I think that's a pretty clever name for considering the, type that is talked about and everything. I think that's pretty clever.
Yeah. But that's, again, the concept that I had like 3 years ago was I wanted to have a conspiracy type podcast. And what is most people that are conspiracy are considered tinfoil hat wearers. So if I want to talk about conspiracies, it's like a tinfoil tale. Like, I didn't plan on actually interviewing people or going that route. And that's just how it ended up turning into. Yeah. Like what I wanted to do didn't really pan out. And then I was like, well, I guess I could start interviewing people. I just kept the name because I already had the name. Now within the last couple of weeks, I've been getting people saying they won't come on the show because I'm just going to make fun of them or ridicule them. Like, tell me you haven't listened to the show by telling me you haven't listened to the show.
Yeah.
Like, I don't make fun of anyone. I don't ridicule anyone. I don't disprove anyone. Sorry.
I went on this other one too, and it was just kind of like talk about anything, but the guy was really big into like D.B. Cooper, what actually happened with all that, and the conspiracies with that, which, we didn't talk about that, but I know he was saying he was trying to get guests for that and everything. So it's kind of cool, the different things out there kind of with conspiracies and all that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, I think, when it comes to the conspiracy realm that we don't really dive into. And I have always been more into that type of mindset. I think the episode that's coming out tomorrow is a conspiracy podcast that I did with someone else, and it was kind of like a swap cast. They already released it like a month or so ago, but since I record multiple episodes a week and only release once a week, I'm pretty backlogged on episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, that was always like where I wanted to go with the podcast, and it's turned into what it's turned into. So people are not liking being called tinfoil and making it sound like I'm discrediting people that they're crazy wearing a tinfoil hat. Like, that is not even the intention.
Yeah. Now, again, I think that's a pretty clever name for the content material that's discussed.
Yeah. Again, and the way I see it, anyone that would come onto a show and talk about things like this that are completely taboo to the normal people they're going to look at you funny. And that's, again, it still falls back to that name. So I don't, if people are being insulted by it, I guess, sorry, not really. I mean, whatever. I don't know. Not to go off on a tangent, but that's just...
Oh, no, I got you, yeah.
That's just the stuff that I've been dealing with the last few days, and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But no, back to your books. When did you write these books? Like, are they recent or?
So After Midnight came out a year ago this month. I'd have to look at the exact date, but it was like mid-October, something like that. But that's a collection of stories from like maybe 10 years total that I did. Because at the time, I wasn't really super thinking about a book. I was just writing stories here and there. And then once I started compiling, I was like, oh man, I can actually turn this into a book. Then Frogman was released June, I want to say, somewhere around there. And that took me about a year to write that one.
Yeah.
So that one was much quicker than After Midnight. Because like I said, After Midnight's like 10 years worth of just different stories I wrote over a 10-year period.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't spend very much time writing mine. I literally think I wrote it in like 4 to 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Just a couple weeks ago. And
yeah.
I hurried up and had it sent off, and then I got the thing back and I got reading through it. I was like, well, this word's spelled wrong. This word's not in the right place. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So there's been like a couple of revisions since it's already been out there, and some people ordered the book. So anyone out there that ordered a book before I think it's fixed, I'm pretty sure it's fixed now, but
yeah,
they're going to have some of the some typos and weird things in it.
Yeah, there's definitely, when I got, like the proof copy of After Midnight, there's, some weird things that had to get fixed and all that. So it, for whatever reason, it happens.
I was upset because I used spell check per word, and then I used Grammarly, and then like I said, I used a chat bot, and I figured they would be smarter than me. They were still stuff incorrect and spelled wrong. I was like, how did it not pick up words spelled wrong?
Yeah. I know there's a few still in my books just here and there, not big things, maybe just a misspelling here or there, but it's went through professionals that do that, and same thing, word check, stuff like that, and still a couple things have slipped through the cracks. So it's kind of crazy.
One of the first sections is like, it's just like an introduction, and then it said exploding. That was the first one I noticed, is like exploding. It's supposed to be exploring. It didn't have an R in there. I was like, why did it never pop up? I was like, exploding is not even a word.
Yeah, it should definitely got the red squiggly.
Yeah. But I have noticed that there were certain words and stuff that it said in there that I don't remember writing. So I think when I ran it through that stuff, when it suggested to use words, and I just said okay. I think it
just okay to all.
Yeah, I think it changed some stuff up. I was like, well, it makes me sound more intelligent, I guess. But like, there's certain verbiage that used, or certain adjectives or whatever. I was like, I don't remember using that word, but okay.
Yeah.
It's whatever. That's technology for you. The AI overlords are coming to take over. But yeah, when it comes to cryptids or whatever, I know you said you wouldn't want to see a Bigfoot or anything like that, but do you actually think that some of these things really do exist?
The only one that I probably really believe in, like I told you, is Bigfoot, just because there's too many sightings and stuff like that. The others, I find interesting, all that, but I'm not really sold on them. Like, Mothman's a cool story, but I don't believe there's Mothman out there, or, like Jersey Devil's cool story, stuff like that. But Bigfoot, I do think there's something out there on that front.
Bigfoot's plausible just because there was a Gigantopithecus, so we know something like that did exist, at least. So who's to say that an offshoot still doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
Where I struggle at, and even with me seeing it, when it comes to Dogman, I've actually seen a dog that stood up on its hind legs like a person. And to me, it's like, I don't really believe in Dogman. I don't see how it's possible. It's not scientifically possible, or an evolutionary line for an upright walking canine. But I know what I saw. And for being a skeptic, it's really hard to accept that, because I try to say that's not possible. So that's where I'm saying it leaves me in a weird position, just because I don't want to say I believe in Dogman, or I believe in all these stories or cryptids or anything like that, because part of me doesn't believe in it. But at the same time, I can't discredit anyone else, because I saw something too. You know what I mean? It's like, explain it.
Yeah. Like I said, I've just found all of them fascinating, but like, if I was in that situation, I think that'd be terrifying to see something like that.
The strange part about what happened with me is I wasn't afraid. And I know that's a common theme when it comes to Dogman encounters. Everyone says that they're terrified, like they feel like they're evil and everything about them.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I didn't feel that. Like, I was more curious, and I was more like, what the hell? When it like stood up and looked at me for a second, I'm like, doesn't make any sense to me how that's possible. But I never was afraid. And it's not me trying to sound like brave or anything. Like, to me, I was more confused than anything. So it's strange.
So were you like out like camping, or?
No, we were actually on our way home from work, and a coworker was in front of me. We both
Okay, so it was like across the like street when you were like come across the street, you were driving, or?
Yeah. I'll tell you, I can tell you the story here off air. I don't want to talk about it.
No, that's fine. It's just, no, that's fine.
No, I've talked about it on here and on some other stuff, and the podcast. I don't want to keep beating my own story to death.
Yeah.
But I could tell anyone, if they want to know my story, they can always just buy the book, because pretty much the first chapter is exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's, a common theme with a lot of the Bigfoot sightings and stuff too, stuff like that. Someone driving down, like a road or something, and one crosses in front of them.
Yeah,
A lot of sightings are like that.
it's sort of that way, but there's a lot of weird shit that went on into it that's not 100% that type of scenario.
Yeah.
But, well, I think we can probably wrap this up unless there's anything else you'd want to discuss.
No, yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Let me talk about my 2 books a little bit. So,
No, I love trying to help out anyone that I can. That's the whole point of the podcast, is to be a platform for anyone. And just so happens you wrote some books about some stuff that I thought maybe everyone else would enjoy reading.
yeah. Thank you.
You're not a problem. You want to plug your books again before we sign off?
Yep. So, After Midnight, 12 Terrifying Stories, and Frogman of the Foothills. If you search my name, Ransom D. Coslet, on Amazon, should pull right up. Last name Coslett to spell it. So
Awesome. Well, Ransom, appreciate you coming on here talking with me tonight. It's been a pleasure.
yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Yep. So, with all that being said, anyone out there that wants to be on an episode of Tinfoil Tales, you can send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get you scheduled for a future episode, but we're going to roll on out. So thanks for listening. Remember, the truth lies in the stories we share, the connections we make. Stay curious, stay open-minded. Thank you all for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the unknown. Good night, everyone.